Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast, episode 718. We talk Wonder Woman and Amazon's attack.
From the sleepy suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio, there are assembled the world's two greatest podcast hosts, created from the cosmic legends of the universe. Sean Whalen.
Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast. I'm a big fan of variant colors. My love for Batman is that stuff. Let's talk some comics.
And Jim Segulin.
How's it going, eh? You know me and Superman. I'm really loving what we're doing. Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast.
Their mission, to discuss DC Comics in books, movies, and television several times a month in 1 to 3 hour episodes. And to serve all mankind.
Outstanding.
Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Jim, the sensei of the whatnot, Segulin.
How's it going, eh?
Jim, on this episode, we're going to talk about Wonder Woman issue number 5 and Amazon's Attack issue number 4. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what's going on over at DCBService.com?
We have the 20th anniversary of Identity Crisis Deluxe hardcover, 40% off, only $29.99. And we've got a really cool box set of the Batman Family Year 1. So Robin Year 1, Batgirl Year 1, Nightwing Year 1. All together, 40% off, only $35.99. Thank you, DCBS.
I like those box sets a lot. So
yes,
that's cool.
I love box sets.
Over at InStockTrades.com, we've got Creature Commandos presents Frankenstein. That's 50% off from $24.99 to only $12.49. Peacemaker Tries Hard in hardcover, $24.99 regularly, 50% off, only $12.49. The Question Omnibus by Dennis O'Neil and Dennis Cohen. We got $125 regularly, 50% off, only $62.50. If you haven't read that, highest possible recommendation. Superman vs. Meshy Trade Paperback Volume 3, $9.99 regularly, 50% off, only $4.99. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plotlines, story twists, and whatnot of the comics we're discussing in today's show. So, if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some comics.
There they are, all alone, except for that old character.
Our first discussion this episode is going to be of Wonder Woman number 5. Tom King is the writer, Daniel Sampere is the artist, Tomoyo Mori on colors, Clayton Cowles on letters, Sampere and Mori on the cover, Julian Totino Tedesco, lyrics, CRTS Delara, Daniel Sampere on the variant covers, Chris Rosa, associate editor, Brittany Holzer, editor, Paul Kaminsky is the group editor, Wonder Woman created by William Moulton Marston, Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family, and immediate apologies for name butchery there, especially for its Tomeu Mori. I don't know that I get the first name right, but on a lot of books that I'm really enjoying, so apologies for that. But this book, boy, Wonder Woman has, over the years, Wonder Woman's enjoyed some really great creative teams. This is another one of them. I mean, I'm really, really enjoying this. One of the things that's standing out for me is it feels very Wonder Woman, but it also doesn't feel like it's retreading old ground. It honors what came before in the sense that there's characters that are involved in this and themes that are involved in this that do reflect past Wonder Woman storytelling, but it feels like forward movement. And this story in particular feels very contemporary, and I'm talking about the whole Amazon's attack story that's going on right now. Feels very contemporary to today's society. I love when comics do stuff like this because it just makes you think and makes you think about how you're interacting with others today, what today looks like. And this is one of those stories that is skirting those lines in a very, very clever and very, very thought-provoking way. And I am very, very Wonder Woman happy now. You were the one that suggested that, hey, let's bump this one up and make sure that we're having a conversation around it. And I'm so glad that you did.
One of the things I absolutely love about Tom King is the way he's laying out where to put the emphasis on the story. Right now we've got a very heavy Wonder Woman focus, but not just Wonder Woman focus, her support team. We've got all the, for lack of a better term, all the Wonder Girls there. And they're all sitting there, and it's all about Diana and her interaction with them. Mm-hmm. It's a heavy focus, but there's still plenty of villain development in this.
Yeah.
In that we're understanding why this villain is, going to be something, that Diana's never really dealt with before. And I loved how they laid it out where we're going hero, villain, hero, villain, hero, villain. And it's giving us a nice blend of the team that, because the ending, we all knew what was going to happen. Diana was going to win the contest, tell them to stand down. They'd swear to stand down. And then at the end, like, what do you think? We're going to stand down on this? You knew that was coming. But I still love seeing it. I still cheered when you get to the last page and you still see them all standing there going, what? You honestly thought we'd let you do this alone? It's just brilliant. But
I didn't see it coming.
Oh, you didn't?
No, and I loved that. I mean, it's when you get there, you're like, of course. So I get where you're going with that, but I've got to admit, as I was in the story, I was in the moments, and I was enjoying the moments, and I was thinking to myself, okay, this is the way Diana's protecting all of them, and Diana's going to go off and do this alone. We got this whole army that's being gathered against her. How this is going to be about Diana overcoming these insurmountable odds, and what does that look like for Diana? I loved what they did in this one. Yeah. Here's the thing. It's logical. It makes sense. And I actually love that they did it because it actually did a great job. And this is something that I think Tom King does very well. It acknowledges the fact that it's not just Diana. It's her whole team. It's her whole family. It's, her whole support system and what they look like. Of course, this is how all of them would behave. And so you're right. It makes sense. But I'm going to admit, when I was like, for me, it was an oh yeah moment. I don't know if it's just because I was not thinking about the other possibility. I was thinking that they were going to honor these promises that they were making to her to hey, we're doing these little mini contests. You won. I don't like it, but all right, I'll stick to this. Kind of honoring that tradition, so to speak. Oh, yeah. And so that's where my head was at. So you saw it a different way than I did, and that's super cool. I was completely surprised, and I love that. I love when they can do that to you. So it works on the level it worked for you. It worked on the level that it worked for me. It hits in different ways.
Oh, big time. Big time. And again, it was one of those things where I loved, like in the opening page, they're all sitting down at the diner's like, okay, we settle this as Amazons. You must choose your contest. And at first I'm like, what are they talking about? Arrows, arms, something different. And I'm like, what are they talking about? Then you flip the page and you're getting when they start pulling in the villain team, start seeing, Sergeant Steele talk to the different people who hate Wonder Woman. And I was like, and it's not until a couple pages that you see Yara and Diana standing at each other shooting arrows. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what they're talking about. I was like, that is cool, But I want to go back one quick second. When Sergeant Steele approaches Cersei, I like that she initially turns him into a pig. and the way they show it, even, just the fact that the one pig has a solid steel hoof. You're like, oh, there's Sergeant Steele. She initially did not agree with his offer.
But the other piece, too, is, and nodding and agreeing with you on that piece, I love how they handled Giganta, too. Yeah. This is a great issue because it serves as a primer for those of us who know all these characters, but also a primer for people that are new to these characters. And why it needs to work on both of those levels. These are characters who either have different power levels now, or unique power changes, or even just kind of an update on stats. Go, okay, now where are they at now? What is kind of like their deal now? This brings everything up to speed with, in the DC universe right now, these are who these villains are and how they play. It also sets up, and this is where I think I was being completely swerved, and it worked really well on me. It set up this idea of, how is Wonder Woman alone going to overcome all of these? I know why she's doing this. I know why she's making them promise, but why on earth wouldn't you give yourself a team? Because she was afraid to lose one of them in this process. And she knew what Sergeant Steele was going to throw at her was going to be something huge. So she was thinking that way, and that was playing out for me. And I really loved the way that Tom King played a shell game with this story, because each of these pages introducing these villains sets a stage, sets a mood, sets a tone. And I loved the refresher. And you're right, the pig bit was outstanding.
Yeah. Now, the arrow contest, again, that was awesome, because initially I didn't realize what they were doing until you started watching. Like, oh, they notched 1, then they notched 2 at the same time, then 3, then 4. Like, oh, this is awesome. And again, I loved how when finally at the 4th, 1 slips by on each of them, and they're like, stand tall, as you taught me, Yara. And they both, neither one flinches, and Yara's goes wide, and Diana finds its mark. And I'm like, oh, that is awesome. Again, one of those things where I don't know how much I'd want to be Wonder Woman's friend if I'm going to get shot in the gut with an arrow. But again,
Well, she chose this.
Yeah.
Diana didn't choose the contest. Yara did.
Yeah.
So if you got notched with it, it's kind of like, why would you choose that?
Well,
you got to be pretty confident you're going to win.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's of the 3 contests, her and Donna Troy were the 2 I thought were probably the best ideas. I disagree with Cassidy's, when we get to that. But, this one, she, Yara is an accomplished archer. So she's thinking, I can take Diana with this, now with, and then, Donna Troy, I loved hers. But, when you get to Cassidy, arms, that's something. I don't, arm wrestling match with Wonder Woman. I don't know if I would, I don't know why she went with that. And she tries to, explain it and break it down and all that stuff. But part of me is just like, I think she was outgunned on that.
Some of that, though, shows the humanity of Cassie. And what I mean by that is, we all have our strengths and weaknesses in our areas where we're overconfident, but also needing to prove ourselves. Her impression, she deals with it there. You think I'm weak. She says it to Diana as they're talking through. That's not because of Diana. That's her own internal perception, right? So that was a need to prove herself. I actually liked that. I agree with your criticism of her. Like, why would you choose that? So you're spot on. But what I loved about it was when you read through the dialogue, you sit there and go, she chose that because she has issues. and I'm saying that I love the character so much. I'm like, that's kind of a cool move. It shows that she was trying to approach this in a different way than the others would, with something that she believed based on her background, which, to her point is kind of ignored. She has a power set where she believes she could step up and do that and actually make it happen. I don't think she was setting herself up for failure. I think she really believed this was something that she could win with Diana. But here's the question I have. Did she lose because her power set wasn't strong enough, or did she lose because of her own self-doubt? And I love when you can kind of look back at something and kind of go, which was it? And I don't know. And that was where it worked for me, agreeing with your criticism. It's like, because you're right. Like, no. I'd choose all kinds of different contests with Diana than that.
Yeah, and let me clarify something. I'm not saying, and I know you don't think this, but just let everyone know, I'm not saying this was bad writing. I'm saying it's one of those things where I'm like talking to my friends saying, why'd you choose that? Come on. Because again, they do a brilliant job with the conversation and the dialogue back and forth as to why she chose arms, why she went with that. Just like with, Yara, why Yara did it, why Cassie did it. And Donna's, as I said, I think is the best one. But again, it's absolutely, I loved how that dialogue and, in the second and third read-throughs, just going back and forth between the two of them. That is, again, part of the thing on arm wrestling isn't just arm strength. It is that your focus and your willpower and all that. And that's, again, something that Diana has over everybody. She and Soup could go one-on-one with this just because of that. But Cassie, because, again, it fits her personality. It fits who she is, that she's like, I can take her in this. I can do this. And I thought that, again, so any comment I'm making sound like I think it's bad writing.
No.
The opposite. You know, I think it's brilliant writing, and I'm like, my friend here just made a bad choice.
I think you're doing all the right things.
Yeah.
So I'm and my comments were not disagreeing with you in any way, shape, or form. It was more of the here's what I loved about it. But agree with what you're saying. Like she was sitting there, like, listen, Cassie, why would you do that?
Oh God, yeah.
Because you're right. There's a psychological game, and it was happening in the dialogue.
Yeah. And again, it's interesting because Cassie has the one line where, like, you got your muscles from your mother, I got mine from Zeus directly. And in reality, Diana got her muscles from Zeus as well, because you know that's her father. You know, so it is a little bit of a part of Diana's isn't just because of the Amazon. She's a god. You know, half god, whatever you want to, whatever her current status is. That is a serious power set for her. But
sure. That
battle was won with willpower. That battle was won with confidence and interpersonal gut. That was a gut check time. And even when you get to that final sequence, when she's sitting there and you can just struggling, and you mentioned it where she said, "You think I'm weak?" She's like, "No, my love, it is I who is weak. I'm not, and I cannot see you in pain." And I love just that moment because after that they go to like no dialogue, and it's just that final struggle and you just slowly see the hand go down.
Yep.
And that was Diana's final resolve saying, "I will do everything I can to protect the people I love." And there's that inner strength that gives her the victory, not the arm strength, not the muscle. So
and
really the way Wonder Woman was written here.
And to the point of that, what did Cassie have to pull from at that time?
Yeah.
That was where it became a psychological battle. That's what I loved about it. And but it's everything you said. And I love that you brought that up because I think it was such an interesting, it's funny. It had my interest in the same way as the other ones, but had my criticism in the same ways you're talking about. But I loved that. I liked that it was unique. You know what character I love seeing again? Grail. Because I'm going to be honest with you, until she plopped up on that page, I forgot about her. And I was like sitting here like, oh, yeah, of course. That's somebody you'd go for. That her power set, having her in, absolutely. Dr. Psycho is obviously an obvious one to go to, and you've got to have him on the team. But Grail was one. Grail, I don't know if you remembered her being somebody to be on the radar for this. When I flipped that page and I saw her, I was like, oh, my gosh, yes, of course.
Oh, big time. And here's the thing. It's funny because Dr. Psycho, I loved how they didn't go to Psycho. He went to them.
Yeah.
And even they comment on how the fact that, he surprised us by finding his way into our world. So as Steele's walking into his office, there's Dr. Psycho saying, okay, let's rock. And then with Grail, Steele didn't go to Grail. The leader had to actually go to Grail. And it had to be someone, higher than, it couldn't be, Grail would see Steele as just an errand boy. Wouldn't see him as saying, it needed to have this level of respect because she sees herself as a god, so when you have that kind of power levels, you can't send just anybody. And I liked how the fact that, he had to actually be the one to go visit her. But even though he's like, I need to do this, but in the end, she's going to bow before me, So, again, keeping with our villain and the ego and the power levels that he has and his own arrogance, but also showing his strategery in that he knew Steele couldn't get the job done on this one. He had to do it directly. So, and just like you, I was completely caught off guard by Grail. That did not even enter my brain. And I'm like, oh, that is an awesome part of this team.
Silver Swan being on was a great addition. Angleman was a great addition. I really liked the team that they were putting together because...
hold on. Angleman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember a major story where Angleman fought Diana, and I don't remember that. Am I missing? Am I forgetting something, or they just pull Angleman in, just to pull him in?
He actually first appeared in Wonder Woman. It was Wonder Woman number 62 in 1953 was actually the first appearance of Angleman.
Oh,
so
okay.
This is a character whose origins are actually steeped in Wonder Woman.
Oh, so, cool. Okay.
I admit I've never read Wonder Woman number 62. I looked that up because you were asking the question, and I think it's a very good question. But actually, this is a character who came from Wonder Woman. So it's a Wonder Woman villain. as with any villain that starts off in one character's books, they sometimes through crossovers and through large event stories and things like that, they end up migrating their way into other characters' books and sometimes have some very prominent storylines elsewhere. But that's his origins actually go back to 1953.
Yeah, and I'm just keep going, Triangle Man, doing the things a triangle can. They might be giants, if anybody's wondering.
No, I knew exactly where you're going.
Well, you did, but there may not be.
Yes, I was groaning as you were doing it, but yes, I knew where you were going with that. Okay, I'm a gamer. I loved the whole Donna sequence.
Yes.
I thought that was really well done. I've been in this situation before where what Diana did. And it's usually, I mean, we've all, if anybody here, I mean, there's a lot of people listening to this that are gamers and certainly significantly better gamers than I am. But when you have a game that you've had for a while and you've played it over and over again, you get pretty good at it. And when I say get pretty good at it compared to somebody who's never played it before. So, there's been times where, I think back when I had my old Sega Dreamcast, back for people remember that game. There's a game on there called Soul Calibur, which was an top-tier arcade game at the time as well. I really love Soul Calibur. To this day, it's maybe my favorite fighting game series. But it involves weapon combat and stuff like that. So I had played it for hours and hours. So remember our friend Bob, who used to watch wrestling with us and stuff like that. So he came over one time and we were playing Soul Calibur. Well, I was talking through with him how to, do the controls and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I don't want to destroy the guy in the first playthrough. So, you're sitting there talking him through how to do stuff to you. But then there is the competitive part of yourself where at the end you kind of sit there and come back and just have to do the beat down.
Yes.
You can. So it was a lot like what Diana did here. Diana completely schooled her. And what I loved about that is that's an example of one, like you said earlier about the ending sequence. You saw the ending sequence coming. I saw the ending sequence of this coming, and I really loved how they played it out because I'm sitting here oh, of course, it's Diana. And I love that she picked Superman because it in its own way, it was Diana's take on the whole Superman Batman, which one would win kind of debate.
Yeah.
And I love seeing that play out.
Oh, big time. And again, for me, I thought this was the smartest choice of the three of them. Because, again, Donna, she's hanging out, she hangs out with her friends and they game. She's been playing this game forever. Yeah. So, yes, 100% I could see why she would think I've got the advantage here. And it was funny because even as this was initially playing out, I'm like, does Wonder Woman even game? And even when she's talking, wait, the controls aren't working, this and that. And then next thing you know, bam, KO. I'm like, oh, that is brilliant. Oh, that is awesome. And again, loved how this played out. Not only just because it was really neat that they used gaming to decide this final contest, but also, again, the inner dialogue between them. While the contest is going on, just these two are hanging out, and you're seeing that you saw all three of them 100%, love, respect, and wanted to support and help their friend. And she loves and respects all three of them, and she doesn't want them to get hurt. And again, it was actually in this one that I realized that, that Diana's not doing this alone. And it was something in the way it was, and I can't even think about it. I think part of it was just the look on Donna's face, where she's like, by the gods and all their honor, I swear it. And just the way she was, there's just something about it right there. I was
I'd say it the way that they said it though, and all their damned honor, because she's almost cursing the process over there. So I see how you're getting that, and
so that's why when I said I wasn't surprised by it.
Yeah.
Because, and again, it was in that last one scene. All three of them fail, but it was that final conversation where they're talking about this.
Cool.
And it's do not, even Diana's like, do not dishonor our family, sister. What is over is over. You have lost. Cassie has lost. Yara has lost. You must, tread their worn path and give your word as I surely have given mine. And it was just that I love that, again, brilliant artwork where Donna's like, please, Diana, let us help you. And there's a single tear running down her face, and Diana's like, no, thank you. And you can see the tear going down Diana's face. It was, again, brilliant writing and artwork working together, where these two people, they don't cry often. They're hardened warriors, but they're also these compassionate, wonderful people that, they see their friend in trouble. They see their friend in danger. And it was just one of those things, like, especially then the next page when you flip
Wait, one other piece to that, though. Also, their long history together.
Yeah.
Out of all of them, Donna goes back to almost, very early parts of Diana's career. So Donna's been a character that's been around for a long time. And having that kind of rich history with her, I love that they ended with her. And I'm sorry, please continue. But it was I was like nodding as you were like talking about all that piece and geeking out. And I'm like, it's also important to note that, oh my gosh, these two have such a long history together.
Oh, big time. And again, she's the original Wonder Girl. She, the first Wonder Girl to go on and be Donna Troy, which, and Troya, I think, and started developing her own character, her own strength. And, it's one of those things where I loved how, again, like you said, she was the last one. She was the final contest. And then when you flip the page and you see the team fully assembled, the army of madness that they've assembled, against her, I'm just like, it's like, damn, that's awesome. That is going to be an epic battle.
Yep.
And again, you get to the final page, and there the three of them are in costume, ready to go. And even Yara's like, oaths, the gods, tourneys. You want us to let you face that alone? Loved it, man. I was like, yes, this is perfect. This right here is a great way to end this. And even Donna Troy, she's there. You can kind of see the other two are more defiant. She's, again, it's still affecting her because she did swear, but she's not going to honor that thing. She's not going to let her friend die or face what's coming along. And the funny thing is, they don't even know what's coming yet. They just know that this battle is going to be epic. They know that Diana is up against something she's never gone up against before. And I love the fact that they're all gathering together, and it's going to be a net, pure six brawl. I'm loving it.
This is an example of artwork, though, exuding the personality of the characters that are on the page. We haven't really talked about the artwork a lot in this book. It's a beautiful book, but this page illustrates to me a talented artist. Cassie being in the foreground, think about her contest. She was trying to prove something there, right? So in the foreground, she's there this is her opportunity to posture, right? To be Cassie. Because it's just kind of like where she's at stage-wise. I really liked it. I liked the choice. Yara, it's the defiance, right?
Yeah.
Yara is a different sort of animal, and I love Yara. And I really love that, I'm still like, I miss her book so much because I was really, really enjoying that. What I loved in this embraces everything that's great about Yara. The dialogue matches the posture, the way that she's sitting, her old reaction to it. Donna is the most seasoned. There is something to be said about the quiet confidence in the way she's presenting herself. It's her presentation of this is going to be a lot different than the other two. And I really liked that. Sometimes being in the background like that and the way that she's doing it, she's standing there. She's ready to go. There's a quiet confidence there. She's got a maturity about her that is different in her presentation that I really, really liked. This is an example of an artist just nailing it. There's so much personality in this singleton page that you could put these three together and have them standing next to each other, have them all sitting on the same couch together. There's all kinds of other ways you could have handled this. This kind of foreground, midground, background approach and the different postures and the way that they're carrying themselves, it is echoing exactly what we saw earlier with them in the book. And I loved that. It's like being able to sum that up in the end. This is what do comics do that sometimes other mediums are not able to capture? That is special. That is something that you turn into an animated feature later and try to recapture. But it's hard to do. This is really well done. And that's something that's fun about going back and rereading comics. Those are the things you don't catch in the first read through. It's when you go back later and kind of look at the page like, oh my gosh, that's really cool how that all presents itself. The artistic choice in being able to just, whether that was something that was overt on the part of the artist or something that just kind of happened because of, I've got the script, I'm kind of reading it, I think it should look like this. I don't know how that came about, but it worked. It's like really, really well done. And those type of things, when you capture that kind of magic and people can interpret it, because that's my interpretation of what was there. Somebody else, listening to this, yourself included, maybe interpret it differently. That's okay. It's fun when you have a piece that's in front of you and you're reading a larger overarching story and you get hit with those moments. This book, boy, I got to tell you, the art, the colors, everything just comes together. The lettering, because the lettering is pretty critical, especially when you get to Yara's piece, as far as what you want to make stand out about her colorful language. Because it's all about personality. It's about evoking mood. And this story is really, really doing this is a team dynamic that's really developing this great story here. This is a good-looking book.
Oh, God. And I'm going to add on to that, what you just said, because everything you said, I 100% agreed with. But, again, on that final page, I love that we have Donna's reflection in the window. Again, brilliant art usage, nice the fact that it's right there, because, again, there would be a reflection with the window, So I love when artists actually pull what would actually happen in there. Same thing like the light sources, how both Cassie's and Yara's shadow are going in the right direction, so where the sun's coming, the lighting from that room is coming from. But also on the back wall, the picture of the kid from either last issue or the issue before, who is the young man who wanted to meet Wonder Woman, even though all of this stuff is going on with the Amazons and everything going on, and Diana's she's like, no, this is a Make-A-Wish kind of thing. This kid's on his last, this kid is dying, and she went there and met with him, took him to Paradise Island, got special permission for this kid to be on Paradise Island. Just like how awesome was that. I love that issue. And then they have his picture on the wall. That is one of the pictures that Diana would have on her wall, that young man. And there was that for me was just little images like that. And again, the look of surprise on Diana's face when she's stepping in. I love when you get artists who have some great facial expressions, and surprise, huh? That look on her face was absolutely brilliant. There's so many just little moments, but the one thing I loved was the dialogue. Again, as this is overlaying, we've got our big bad talking about, how Steel and all that, how he's assembling his team, and he's like, a new army was gathered, an army of madness, power, obsession, magic, savagery, and hate. And you see that team, and you're like, oh, that is awesome. And then when you get there and you get to the Wonder Woman portion, he's like, unfortunately, and for the first and only time, we actually overestimated Wonder Woman's facilities to enact her will, and so to acquire her own army, an army of skill, strength, cunning, and love. And I love the fact that right there, again, it's the villain's assessment of Wonder Woman, that he knows this is a team that's not gathered together for anything other than love. And this is a skilled, team that they're going up against. So it was a really cool assessment there that the villain is throwing on Diana. So and Diana's team. I love how, again, they took plenty of time in this issue to escalate, to really show the strength of the heroes and the strength of the villains. But it's not even just the surface strength of these characters. They dived deep in there and gave us some of the hidden stuff about them. Again, get you excited for the next issue. This is a way to end an issue to get you to go, okay, where's the next one, please? I want this now.
What's great about comics nowadays, and it's always been a medium that plays around with storytelling, right? What I love, for a while there, we weren't getting a lot of those narrative balloons. It was you were getting just the page dialogue, and people weren't really experimenting with a lot of that. in recent years, we've been getting a lot of writers who are it doesn't fit in every book, and you don't want it in every book. But this story in particular, it benefits from having an ongoing narration. It's almost like you're reading two stories in one, if that makes sense. And I really like the choice. And I think different writers are handling, how they handle storytelling in different ways. And it makes books feel fresh. It makes stories feel fresh. I absolutely loved because when you get that coming from other characters, you're getting that character's perspective on the subject matter that they're talking about. And I always like that too, because it's twofold. You learn about the subject that you're seeing on screen. You also learn more about the character who's telling the particular story. and that dual layer, I think, is really, really smart when you find that character's voice about somebody else. It just works. Can we talk a little bit about the backup feature?
Yeah.
So it's World's Finest, and this is part 3. This is also collected in the Trinity Special. Tom King is the writer. Belen Ortega is the artist. Alejandro Sanchez on colors. Clayton Cowles on letters. Chris Rosa is the associate editor. Brittany Holzer is the editor. Paul Kaminsky is the group editor. Superman, of course, created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. And I wanted to shout out the creative team on this one because this is a great example of there's a different art style to this that fits the story that's being told. We've seen a young Trinity in these multiple parts gradually growing up. This is a character now we're giving some history in the future to bring this character into present day. This is a character that we were not aware of that exists, but has a very strong upbringing and relationship with Damian and John. And I really liked this unfolding story. I like that she rides around on a kangaroo. I mean, here's the great part about this. It's a fun story about this younger generation creating their own World's Finest team, but trying to find their own identity, not just blanket going with what came before. Damian's not Bruce as Batman. Damian's Damian as Batman. He is Batman, but he's his Batman. John is Superman. He is his Superman. And in the case of Trinity, she's not her mother. She is a different kind of Wonder Woman. And they're each developing their own identity together. But the bond between them has been really engaging to see grow. I've really liked this unfolding story a great deal. And this is really critical. You've got to make us like this character pretty fast because we're inserting this character into this story in some capacity. I'm not quite sure yet what her role is going to be in this, but I'm intrigued. I want to know more. How did she get to, because she's going to get to present day, but she's much older. So this is her in the future or in a future.
Right.
And I want to know how this all comes about.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. And as you're talking, I'm just nodding my head. Yes, yes, yes. I'm all that. I love the look of how this has been going on. I love how they're portraying Damian Batman. Because, again, you think about it, he's going to handle it differently. But, when Damian first hit the scene, his version of Batman wasn't as pleasant,
right,
as this version is. So now, as we're seeing Damian as Batman, we're seeing more of him being more nice. And I do air quotes around the term nice because it's Damian nice, but still, there's little bits between him and John as they're riding the kangaroo that the Damian who first hit the scenes, that version of Batman of Damian would never be smiling while riding a kangaroo. This would be a waste of time.
Yeah.
But this Damian, because again, Damian's had the chance to grow. So I do like the fact that they're letting him, as we now see him as an adult, grow more. I still love the outfit. I love the fact that he goes with this outfit, and this is the Damian Batman outfit. I completely love it. I think it looks really cool. But again, it's neat seeing him and John, being, the same personality that we see nowadays, but now as an adult, as later on. So it's it is kind of an excitement going on that I was like, that's cool. I'm digging this, man.
Also navigating, though, how to be an influence on a little sister, right?
Yeah.
and how to raise her, how to be responsible for her, how to help her grow into the hero that she can be, because it's an interesting responsibility that the two have faced. Her affection from the two, I like the fact that they're learning from her as much as she's learning from them. And that is a growing of a partnership. You see that it's not as simple as they're training her, they're teaching her and things like that. It's her also bringing her thought process. She's not a drone. And I really like that she's the heart of this team in many ways. And I even like the team, Gen S, the team name, but how it leads to, Superboy going down, or Superman, I should say. I keep calling him Superboy, going down the rabbit hole of, that was a river and Krypton and that type of thing. It's like, oh, he's going to keep going on and on about this now. You created this beast. I love that kind of humor, between them, in the sense that these are characters, Damian in particular, it's not very often you see him take off the mask. And when I say the mask, I'm not talking about the physical mask. I'm talking about the emotional mask, where he relaxes and just allows himself to take a breath and be himself, if that makes sense. His internal self that he doesn't like to show to people. You get to see these glimpses into him rarely. And this story, I think, has done a great job of showing that. Like, it's very much a John and Damian story as much as it is a Trinity story, and it better serves what they're building here with these three by doing it that way. That's where it really hits me on the writing. This could have been a showcase of Trinity piece exclusively, and I would have lost something for me. Instead, when you see this three of them sitting there by the image of Bruce, Clark, and Diana, it feels right in that moment. And I just really, really liked how they laid this whole thing out. And I do encourage you, if you didn't read all of the Trinity stories coming up to this, the Trinity Special is a collection of those, including the free comic book day, elements with it. The Trinity story is really, really good. And I really enjoy the character. I reread that. I did get the special and I did reread it. Just because I like the stories. I knew I was going to be rereading stories, but I'm liking the character's introduction so far. I'm hoping that in the process of Trinity coming into the Wonder Woman universe, that we don't lose some of the great characters that are already there, like Yara and Cassie and Donna, in the process. I'm curious to see, and I trust the writer a great deal, to be able to integrate her in a way that just makes a lot of sense. I'm anxious to see how she's going to fit into all of this.
Here's something I was thinking about. Because, one, I'm echoing everything you're saying. I completely agree with you. One of the reasons I think I'm not worried. I'm not worried because we got a great creative team behind it, but the fact that she's called Trinity, not Wonder Woman. Damian's called Batman. John's Superman. She does not have the moniker of Wonder Woman. I think in whatever future universe this is, there is a Wonder Woman, whether it's Diana or whether it's somebody else. Now, given that statue or the statue, whatever it is you want to call it, where it shows the original Trinity together, maybe one of the other three is now, carrying the moniker of Wonder Woman.
Doesn't she also have the three lassos, though? Isn't that a thing?
Yes, she does have the three lassos. That's one of the reasons Trinity, but also, that's one of the reasons I don't know if in this universe if there isn't a Wonder Woman. We still have those characters. We still have those people. Is my gut. Is where I'm coming from. Is what I'm thinking. But again, who knows? I don't know. She does have the three lassos, so that does kind of.
I'm worried in this universe something happened to them. And I don't know. I don't know where she comes from. Is she our future or a version of our future? There's so many unanswered questions with her. And that's not me disputing your logic. It's more of I'm trying to puzzle her out too. And I like that. I like the mystery, if that makes sense. So they made an intriguing character with her. So do you like her? I guess the question, we haven't really, I'm making a lot of assumptions. I like her so far. I feel like I want to know more, but so far I like the character. I like the concept, what they're going. Do you like her?
Yeah, big time. I really dig this. And again, I like her. I like the character. With you on I want to know the mystery behind her. But again, I'm really loving that John and Damien have not lost that coolness that I love about them.
Yeah.
Again, as I said, we've seen a different Damien. He's not the same little monster that he was. And again, I love the one sequence they had. He's like, when after she jumped and she's banged up and all that stuff, and he's like, great, you broke her. How did I break her? You're Superman. You're supposed to save her. Does she look saved? I'm supposed to save her. What exactly does Batman do? I'm vengeance. I'm the knight. I avenge her nightly. That little bit between those two had me laughing out loud because, again, it's showing Damien's kind of sense of humor, and just he and John, just those are two brothers, flat out. Clark and Bruce, everyone says, oh, yeah, they've kind of like got a brotherly thing. Yes and no. These two 100% have a solid brotherly relationship.
Yeah.
I love that. And now they're bringing in the little sister in with them. And they're looking after her. And you've seen multiple times when they keep, again, like when she was a little girl and Damien took her out to fight Killer Croc, cracked me up 100%. I was like, yes, Damien. And then finally in this one, this is the final contest that the three of them had before they go off on their one little adventure, and I'm like, this is really cool story. I'm digging her. I want to know where she came from. I want to know her lineage. Like everybody else is wondering who's the dad. I want to see that. I want to know what happened. It's really looking forward to how this is playing out. And again, it's brilliance of Tom King writing. Just to take us through. And like you, I love the fact that they changed up the art team. I love the other art team. I was gushing about it. But for this one, give us a little bit different. So as you're reading through the book, you got a little change on it. And this really did fit her. This fit all of them, to be honest. So this was, I'm very happy with this. And like you, I did pick up the Trinity special. Yeah,
because it was really good. You want to talk some Amazon's Attack?
Yes.
Nothing like the handy-dandy electro-claw for carving through metal doors.
Our next discussion is on Amazon's Attack, Part 4. The writer is Josie Campbell, artist Vasco Geogieve, colors by Alex Guimaraes, letters by Becca Carey, main cover by Clayton Henry and Marcello Maiolo, Maiolo. Variant covers by Sweeney Boo and Vasco Georgieve, Georgieve. I really want to know how to pronounce his name if somebody knows that. Associate editor Chris Rosa, editor Brittany Holzer, group editor Paul Kaminsky. And again, apologies on the name butchering. There's some absolutely brilliant work here that I want to make sure people get credit for.
Yeah, this has been an interesting story. It's funny. Going back to the Amazon's Attack name, which has been an event previous in the DC universe, this one is intriguing me immensely because of the fact that I do feel it's very reflective of our current times, in the sense just how even politically we get information, we respond to information, how divided we are. We're really, people are politically divided in a very A or B kind of way, and how much media drives that. And none of those are, paranoia or things like that. It's just kind of the reality right now of how we're digesting things. We are given information at an unprecedented rate. You and I grew up with, you got information from the news and from the newspapers, and those were very set times. And you didn't get information outside of that, right? Unless it was on the radio. But even so, those were like little news breaks that usually came from the same thing, Associated Press, and they were like news briefs. Now we've got a lot of personalities that drive how we get media, right? It was straight up news, and you were left to your own interpretations back then. Now, because of 24-hour news, because of internet news, because of news sites, and it's funny. I've got the Apple News on my app, and it's like I flip over to the left, and it's constant updates on things that are going on, which is really good. I mean, it's I try to stay informed. But the bad part is so much of it, and it's not necessarily bad, it's more you have to be aware of. So much of it is driven by opinion, right? And you and I could, as we often do on this show, actually take a look at our last conversation on Wonder Woman. We both liked that story, but there was very different impressions on some of the events that were happening in the story just because you and I both engaged with it differently. I'm looking in particular at what Yara's holding in her hand at the very beginning of this. Are you harboring Amazons in your home? And we've got some media there that's being put out that is walking through what makes a good person in society and what makes a bad person in society. It's not just if you're harboring Amazons. There's also underlying messaging there on what makes you, there's some inherent pieces in there that I thought was like, wow, this is touching on some really, really cool things that I think is very real today and how our media interacts with us. None of that is anything other than it's a reality, and it's something we all deal with as a challenge in these day and age. I just thought this is a really cool story that embracing these times right now and trying to make something contemporary. I've always loved when comics have done this. It's done it throughout my life. You can look back through, if you read a comic I grew up in the 70s, right? So 70s, 80s, 90s, straight on through. The comics themselves are very reflective of where things were at that particular time. This is one of those stories that I think just hits all those beats. I didn't expect that from this. I probably should have. But it's something that I'm really, really enjoying.
Big time, dude. I tell you, this is fitting in so well with the Wonder Woman story going on. This has been a great job on creative process, editorial process, whoever, I don't know how they're keeping things in groove with each other, but it's 100%. These characters are feeling like, characters in the Wonder Woman series and vice versa. And I love the fact that it's so appropriate that it's Yara who's looking at this page, at this, at this propaganda piece. Because, just with her, how defiant she is toward a lot of things, it so fits that she's doing this. And I was like sitting there and I'm like, I could really see this kind of stuff happening nowadays. Yep. That's one of the biggest things about this. I could easily see this kind of events happening, how this whole thing started, and then media manipulation, factual information manipulation. The villains were changing the story on how things actually occurred. Yeah. So they're going to get the Amazons and the female heroes associated with the Amazons. I love that Mary Marvel is getting pulled into this, and technically she's not an Amazon, but she is because she's getting her powers from the Amazonian gods, but they don't know that. They just see her as a female hero who's sympathetic towards the Amazons, so she gets tied in with it. And I love this propaganda piece where they're saying the good girl speaks only when called on. No. And I love the fact that the good girl obeys her parents and the police. And they got big bold on only and obeys, and I'm like, oh man, this really is just a classic government propaganda piece or side government or whoever you want to call it is doing it. This is the kind of stuff that, the conspiracy theorists who are throwing out how the media's, mind control and changing things. Yeah, this is the kind of stuff they're talking about. And again, it so fits in how they're pulling it in that this actual has a villain who's actually using mind control devices to manipulate people, and I loved this. And that's one of the things about this story that I've loved so much about is the propaganda piece, is that little side piece on there. Because we always talk a lot of times, on the show, how would people react to heroes and this and that? And sometimes you get stories where they're showing people like they're not completely trusting of the heroes. You're like, but it's Superman. But he is an alien who's got godlike powers. And, and you can kind of, sometimes you see some people playing into that. They're 100% playing this. They're playing the people, and they're doing a brilliant job in that they've taken their time in spreading it out. This didn't just happen overnight. They made sure to show throughout the Amazon's attack story, throughout the Wonder Woman story, this has been going on for a little while now, that they're finally making, the Sovereign is finally making their move to take out Wonder Woman. The Suicide Squad's finally taking their move. All these people are taking their time to make their final move and make their attack on the Amazons. And it's interesting how this one's Amazon's attack. The first time it was actually the Amazons attacking people. To me, this is more of an attack on the Amazons. But they're playing it off like the Amazons are this vicious, violent crew attacking us. When in reality, the Amazons are innocent in this. They haven't done anything wrong.
Well, it's that initial event that happened in that bar is what is
right
the catalyst of this whole thing. But that's an example of manipulation.
And we still don't have all the facts on that, to be honest with you. Let's think,
Right.
Look at it, we know kind of what happened. That one Amazon, beat the living hell out of everybody. But who knows what the side story behind that is? Maybe those guys were actually attacking her. Maybe there was a situation beyond that, what we know, or who knows? I don't know. Maybe it was actually how it's being portrayed, where she kind of like snapped on, some guys who were getting touchy-feely, and did some damage. But truth be told, she may have left them all alive, and somebody else came in and killed them and framed her. Yeah. We don't know for 100% fact, information yet. I think that's something that when everything's said and done, that initial fight sequence, that initial launching point, is going to be the truth is going to be different than what we currently know, I think.
Isn't that true, though, of any investigation? When you think about it, it takes time to get all of the information, all of the facts, to see all the sides. It's one of the areas where I want to be very clear. It sounds like I'm critical of the access that we have to media and news and things like that. I'm not. I think one of the pieces where we're sometimes ill-equipped is to understand with that immediacy comes responsibility. And what I mean by that is understanding that we don't always have all of the facts. We've gotten reports on incidents. We've gotten reports on situations, but it doesn't necessarily come at something from all angles. So because of that, we are sometimes reacting or looking for reaction to something that we don't have the whole story for. And I love that this is kind of playing on that in a way that's very, very real and very representative of just how we are sometimes on information overload at a speed that does not always include the level of processing necessary to make informed decisions. That's a whole mouthful of what I just said there. But I'm always fascinated by media. I love technology. I love the fact that we have increased access to things. I think it's super cool. But it is something where at times you're getting these small doses of information. And it seems like depending on whatever, media outlet you're dealing with or things like that, there's a lot of spin that's put on things because people are looking for that, right? Wow, this big event happened. What does this person think? What does that person think? And sometimes we jump to the conclusion that opinion is fact, and it's not. We do a whole podcast that's based on opinion. There are people who listen to our podcast who can think everything we say is wrong, and that's okay because it's opinion.
Yes.
It's okay to disagree with opinion. What is news and what is opinion? What is fact and what is opinion are sometimes areas that get blurred. There's a lot of this story that's driven by opinion based on limited information. You're right. We do not fully know what happened at this catalyst event that kicked all of this off. And I think that's where this story is brilliant because I think it's very representative to our reaction to things these days.
Yep. And they're telling us, again, this overarching story. They're telling a great shell game kind of thing where, it's, the 3-card Monte shell game where it's like, where's the queen? Follow the queen. It's over here. No, it's over here. They're kind of doing that with this story. I like that. I really do like the fact that as we're going through, we're seeing different pieces, and then something else pops up and something else. And no, it's this. It's over here. The keeping you guessing as to what's going to finally be the end game has been the thing that I'm loving the most about Amazon's Attack story, and as well as the Wonder Woman story.
Yeah.
And I think it's, that's, as I said before, brilliance of both creative teams on telling us its story. And it's not the exact same style of storytelling. Each creative team's telling their own story, but they're so in conjunction with each other that I feel comfortable reading them back to back. I feel comfortable with the stories. I'm not sitting there going, now when's this take place compared to Wonder Woman? I'm not bogged down with any of those kind of questioning because it fits so well with each other. And again, they're telling a brilliant story with multiple players jumping from the different parts of the team. To the point where, there's going to be eventually all of them are together again. All of them have the big fight against the big bad, and looking forward to that. But, as they take time, they give Yara her time. They give, their Queen the time. They give, Cassie her time. She's, Mary Marvel her time. They give all of them their plenty of page time, plenty of time to develop their story and, keep it moving forward. In my head, I know there's going to be a moment where they're all together again, but I don't need that right now. I love how they're laying this out, how they're planning it. And even when, I think it was last issue or the issue before that, where they're like, okay, the team needs to split up. You go there, you go there, you go there. Great breakdown of the team, good usage of it. Normally I'm like, hey, keep the team together. No, you needed to split the team up for this one. You each had to investigate your own area. And I thought that, again, good usage of the Force, that they're good usage of their power sets, good usage of the team dynamic.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's one of the things I want to jump back to that you were talking about that I think is important. And I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert about how comics are put together. And I'm assuming in different comic lines it works in different ways. But in this case, we've got an associate editor, an editor, and a group editor. I'm assuming there is a strong relationship between them and the writer, Josie Campbell, of Amazon's Attack, and Tom King on the Wonder Woman book. As far as, thematically talking about what's going on. I mean, these stories, while you're right, there's an identity that is clearly driven by the writer and the art team on the particular story that's being told. They are very reflective of each other, and they feel like they go together very well. And it's got to be driven by a great collaboration between those people to make this work. I'm sure that looks different on every book series, though. You know what I mean? I'm assuming the Batman editorial team works differently than the Wonder Woman one does. You would imagine, just because you've got different creatives involved, that you're going to behave differently and function differently as time goes on. Those are pieces I am fascinated to learn more as far as what that looks like. But I'm sure I can't imagine that being a cookie cutter process.
Yeah.
There's some similarities, but I'm assuming that it would look different thematically between different lines. I'm assuming the Superman books, for example, work differently than these do, even.
Yeah. And I also do want to clarify something. They do clearly label, there's a nice editor note about this series takes place before the events of Wonder Woman #5.
Yep.
So they did clearly put it in there. So, again, where this takes place in the Wonder Woman timeline. But, again, to me, I thought this was a brilliant, again, as I said, the characterizations and just they felt together in with each other that I never once was kind of getting bogged down with that. And I think I bogged down more with it than you do. Where I'm like, now where's this fit in the timeline? Where's this? I kind of get more in that continuity, crazy, timeliney thingy, the timey-wimey stuff. That I think that's more than you do. But again, the way this series has been playing out, the way Wonder Woman has been playing out, I never got caught up with that. Because again, you get caught with this really cool story. And again, this is one of the stories that I read, in lump sum because it was right after, getting, after, when we were on our little hiatus there, we come back from it, and I jumped on this and then went from, beginning to current. So it was kind of a neat reading 1, 2, 3, 4, all back to back to back. So it was kind of fun that way. So, this is another series that when the next issue comes out, I'm looking forward to it. When it hits, I'm going to jump on it and read it because I got to see where the story goes, how this plays out.
I prefer editor notes. So it's funny when you're talking about my comfort level versus yours. I think it's more just maybe just greater years of experience, or greater depth of experience in reading it versus I've kind of been through it more. I don't know. In my mind, I care about filling in the continuity gaps. If they don't spell it out for me, I'm trying to do it myself. So I don't know that I care any less than you do. It's just maybe the way I tackle it's different. And I think that's always going to be personal preference for any reader in comics, right? I like continuity. I like when give me a mini series that explains why all that wackiness before goes together, and I love you for it. You know, I mean, that, what was it? Convergence, was that the one that, that kind of filled in some blanks along the way? I like when they do stuff like that just gives, it's one of the reasons why I love the Jeff Johns Hawkman story that he did in JSA so much. He did a nice job of saying, you know, all that craziness that doesn't make any sense? Here's how it does. And I'm going to connect it all together. And this is the rules going forward. And he actually made that wackiness of Hawkman work, which I really loved. I love stuff like that. Editor notes are something that in our tenure of doing the podcast have made a comeback. There was a point in time early on when we were doing the show where there weren't a whole lot of editor's notes going on. Now all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, I mean, it's been for a decent amount of time now, depending on the books, we're seeing a little bit more of this. And I actually appreciate that small little editorial note, just a little disclaimer in there for the people that need it. I'm one of them. I love that. You know, it's like knowing that this book, okay, that's where it takes place. I'm good to go now. Let's move forward.
Yeah.
I want to know what Asylum is.
Yeah, that, again, what is going on here? Because this isn't just the big bad. There's something else affecting the Amazons. You know, where is... I think in the end, the Amazons are going to be fighting a multiple front battle here, not just, one-sided. I think that's kind of neat to give them that opposition. Because again, you think about it, when you're dealing with the Amazons, that is a whole nation of people who are warriors, who are artists, who are everything and anything in between. So you've got to give them some type of level, some epic level of resistance. You need to have something. So I don't know where this is going to go, where it's going to play out, but I'm looking forward to the story, going down. And I do like the fact that, again, the bad guys are targeting the safe houses. They're finding them, they're attacking them, they're taking them out. Now, whether they've got some supernatural way of finding them, whether it's people just saying, hey, we've seen a bunch of females living at that place. Maybe they're Amazons. Because you go back to that very beginning, the beginning propaganda stuff, where they're saying, hey, if you see them, report them. If you see potential Amazon sympathizers, report them. You're getting that kind of stuff where everyday people, even ones who aren't influenced by, mind control stuff, are sitting there going, wait, maybe we should tell them. Maybe we shouldn't, maybe they're up to no good. I don't know. I don't know. It's better safe than sorry. And they're going to get a lot of people turning them in. Honest, good people who are thinking they're doing the right thing. They've just been tricked, and I love the fact that, when they go in here and, the big bad, this tact force, whatever, they're coming after them, they're 100% outgunned. Both of these two could take out this team without batting an eye. But sometimes it's better to fall back. It's better not to kill a bunch of people. And, it's better to regroup. And I love that, in the middle of this, we still get some funny moments, but there's still enough level of danger and adventure. Like Wonder Girl and the other Wonder Girl. Dibs on the other Wonder Girl. That made me chuckle. And again, it fits the characters right in this heightened edge, on your edge of your seat kind of moment when they're being attacked. They're cracking jokes, or she's cracking, or Cassie's cracking a joke, and to the point where she's like, "Oh, let's just take the secret entrance," and she bursts through the wall. That's a secret entrance exit.
Do you think we're going to get out of this, the Amazons hiding away from society again? I mean, is that where, do you think? I keep wondering, like, Asylum. Asylum doesn't feel like a good thing to me. whatever it is, because that's where the Amazon who vanished went, right? I'm guessing this asylum. I mean, at least that's my guess, just based on the fact that we've got more that are advantage. What we don't know is who's driving that and what that looks like.
Yeah.
It's intriguing, but I'm just wondering if we're going to get from this the Amazons pulling away.
I hope not.
Okay.
To be honest, I'm hoping that the asylum is another big bad that they're going to be confronting and they're going to have to deal with. And that's something they're going to have to say, no, we're not going in hiding. Yeah. We're going to be in plain sight.
Cool.
And that's where I'm hoping this story goes. Mm-hmm. That, we've got, the big bad who, we've got, as I said, we've got the one big bad who's building the team against Wonder Woman, who's doing all that, who's also, behind this, behind all the political attack and all of the, just the propaganda war going on against the Amazons. But I think we're going to still get even more levels of deception, more levels of villainy in this. And I think there's going to be a supernatural side of it. Part of me is wondering if we're going to start seeing a return of the gods. And the gods want the Amazons to be hiding again. Or some gods want them to go into hiding.
How does the sovereign, the king of America, play into all this? That's such a mind-blowing thing for me, because if President Lex happened, and I think it did in this continuity, right?
Yeah.
Did President Lex know about this king? There's so many questions I have about this king now, because this has always been there, right? According to this new lore that's coming in. It just mind-blowing, because I want to know more. I mean, like, how long, but is the king involved in any of this is kind of my question. Or the god, to your point, the gods, I think you're bringing up an excellent point. Who is driving this shit? And if it's the gods, which branch?
Right. And here's a couple of things. First off, I think, when this story was first playing out, I was thinking the Sovereign was going to be the prime villain on this. And I still think he's main person who's manipulating the story. He's doing the main media manipulation. But then I started thinking, I think we've got another side end coming in on this.
True.
Yeah, I think there's something else happening in the Amazons, in Paradise Island, going on that's not the Sovereign, that it's somebody else. And that's why I was thinking the gods, but I'm not sure. Now, your comment on President Lex, my opinion on that is, if Lex was president of this universe, and I thought he was, the Sovereign was around, but the Sovereign was smart enough to know, I'm not going to go to Lex Luthor and order him around. Instead, I'm going to order around his flunkies. I'm going to have his people that Lex is trusting, that people that Lex has around that are influencing Lex, those are the ones I'm going to influence.
They wanted something out of Lex being president.
Right.
I'm more inclined to agree with you on that piece, because I don't see anyone going, geez, we're going to be able to get Lex Luthor under control. I don't see that happening.
Because you've seen a couple of this where in I can't remember one of the issues where the Sovereign actually goes to the president, and the president kneels and kisses the ring. Lex Luthor would never do that.
No, there's no plan.
Lex Luthor wouldn't even pretend to do that, to try to, he wouldn't even do a flim-flam, I'm going to pretend like this.
Well, I'll disagree with you to a certain extent. Lex would do that for the purpose of, if he thought at the moment he was outgunned, he would do that for the purpose of setting up the swerve later. Like, it would never be done genuinely. It would be all done with, okay, what's Lex going to do next? Like, how is Lex going to take advantage of this situation? Because Lex is a manipulator.
Yeah.
So I do see scenarios where Lex would have done that, but it always, like, the next panel would be, and this is how Lex turned on us.
Yes, but there's something just about the way the Sovereign lays it out. I think he and Lex would have the same mindset. And I think Lex would realize that I can't do a fake on this guy. I've got to tell him hell no. And I've got to be Lex Luthor. And I think the Sovereign would know there's no way Lex would do it, and so the Sovereign would. See,
here's a piece. I'm going to disagree with you a little bit on that. Lex's ego. He would never sit there and look at the Sovereign as his equal.
Right.
So I don't think that that's the case. I think Lex would think that he's the smartest man in the room, and would find a way to manipulate that. I'm not saying that Lex would be like Lex. That's sometimes Lex's weak point, right? His blind spot is that piece. But I think that here's the thing: I want that story. Because one of the things, did you read a lot of President Lex when he was president?
No. Well, it's been a while since I've read any.
So one of the things that was great about President Lex is because of his ego, he wanted to be a great president and actually did some really cool things as president. He was still Lex. And I mean, ultimately because of being Lex, his ego is what always gets in his way. Because he's got that just intense ego that will drive things. But this would be a great story, to see what I would love a history of this sovereign. And I don't need it now. I'm happy for it to unfold organically, but there's so much. This opened up an interesting doorway to some stories that could be told, because there's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, big time. There's a lot coming out of this. And, one of the things I'm loving, again, Mary Marvel in this, I'm 100% loving the fact that she's in on this. And I love her as Shazam, that series they did with her, basically carrying on the mantle of Shazam, but Billy's back. So Billy, they both have the Shazam moniker or whatever she is. And then throughout this, they're like, former hero. What do you mean former hero? I'm still a hero. And I love just how Mary is Mary throughout this, and in this, even when she goes to visit, Belle Reve, where she goes as herself, but they were expecting it. Their big bad was expecting it, not expecting Mary to change and reveal her secret identity. Well, Mary can bob and weave, scramble to the point when she can kick on the power and she can go on it. And then just her and Vertigo just going back and forth. And I love, again, their villains are getting these upgrades. The villains are getting more powerful. We're seeing a villain team that is working together, is helping each other. That's one of the big things with the villain teams. A lot of times they double cross each other. The rogues are always such a cool villain team because rogues take care of rogues. We're seeing that with this villain team where they're actually doing that kind of stuff, where they're helping each other out. Now, there's eventually going to be a turn somewhere down the line, but for right now, they're working in conjunction. And they're kind of winning this war right now against the Amazons because all the villain sides are working together. They're working as a cohesive unit. Mm-hmm. But again, like with any hero, it's gut check time and it's rally time. And I love seeing just, the heroes step up and the heroes do their thing.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I like that the villains in this are getting redefined. Count Vertigo is another example of a villain. We've seen it in the main Wonder Woman title. We're seeing it here with characters like Count Vertigo, where he's stepping up. I mean, Vertigo's always had this intense power set, but again, we are redefining that. Yara's stance against Vertigo I thought was really cool, because we'd seen this one, he's taken down Mary Marvel. Mary is the farthest thing from a slouch, knowing her power set. I like that Yara defiantly gets up, how many times. I like with all of them in this particular issue, it's enough of your assumptions, enough of your miscategorization of us. How many times do I have to tell you people, they're not my gods? And, her defining what her gods are. And her stepping up and saying, and I am a god, and you get to actually, I love that they have that image of her boot on one side and the wings of the god on the other, around her ankle. I loved the use of Vertigo's kind of powers to show like what we don't see, what's internal, kind of playing out. It was a good use of the green and the purple to kind of show her what was helping her stand up internally, the godlike power that's contained within her. I thought that was really, really a cool art choice in that battle sequence with Vertigo.
Yeah, oh God, yeah. And the fact that Vertigo's powers upgrade, that it doesn't just distort, disorient you, it actually does go into the mind and plays tricks on your own subconscious, personal fears. So he's thinking, oh, this is an Amazon. I'm going to hit her with the fact that your gods abandon you, the people abandon you. And she's like, they're not my gods. And as soon as they're all like, oh, this is awesome. And the fact that her gods are different. Like, they're not cowards who hide on Olympus. The gods of Themyscira may fall silent. The gods of the Bana Miguel might refuse to speak, but our gods never left us. They are the forest. They are the clouds and the air and the water. They are in the songs we sing, the tales we tell. They are in our blood and in our bone. I am Yara Flor, and I am a god. I love that moment. Again, showing the defiance of Yara. She is such a cool character. It's one of the reasons, when they had her series, we both were gushing about it. And, and she is one of the reasons I really do want an ongoing Amazon series. So when we got this Amazon's attack, I was like, yes, maybe this will lead to more. And every time we get those Trial of the Amazons and this and all these other side stories, where they keep going into the Amazons, I love it. And again, really does show just her power levels. And then I love the fact that Cassie's like, and she's not the only one. Bam! Gives a good punch because, again, Cassie's another one. It's that internal confidence they each have. They have their own strength in who they are. They're not defined by their patriarchs. They're not defined by the things. They are in themselves their own heroes. And again, it's gut check, and I love that.
Yeah, and that's a piece that I'm with you. I love the gut check time and the fact that we get to see that step up from this. I like the interaction with them as a team and their quick ability to, over these issues, learn how to react and rely on each other. Like Cassie and Mary becoming friends. Mary recognizing that, hey, it's safe for me to let it all out and, say the magic word, knowing that I can make a difference here in this moment, but that I'm going to be weak and vulnerable and I have to rely totally on Cassie to take over at that point and make sure that I remain safe. That immediate teamwork element between the three of them, I thought was really, really awesome. Because it led to a great sequence with their interactions where Yara's down there going, oh, no, there's two of them now. Yeah. I'm a fan of you. No, I'm a fan of you. And that stuff felt natural, right? Because wouldn't that be what would be happening in that moment? Like that total geek out? And I really liked seeing that because it fit their characters. It wasn't two characters that you don't expect to behave that way. It was two characters you're like, okay, yeah, I get that. Didn't take anything away from them either, because this is a very heroic moment in what they did. I just love that synergy of teamwork between them. And I'm hoping out of this we get to see more of these characters interacting together because I actually like them as a team.
Yeah. Oh, big time. And again, we see that Asylum playing effect. And that's what affects Cassie, which causes them all to fall because she was the one flying them, and she's like, because the spell Asylum, and she's like, Asylum, we must seek asylum. So that's what I'm like, this is an outside force pulling all the Amazons, trying to make them hide again.
And also a particular group of Amazons because it's not affected, at least so far, it has not affected Yara.
Well, we think it affected one of Yara's people, though.
So what is the difference between Yara and that person?
I don't know.
Well, and maybe it has to do with her background being slightly.
But I also think part of it is, I don't know.
Or are people being targeted individually? I don't know. It's so much to be. It's an interest. Here's the thing: the distinction right now is an interesting one.
Right. Well, and right now they're all falling. And. What's going to... Well, my guess is, Mary will Shazam up and catch the three of them because that's the thing. Yara can't fly. Yeah. She needs her winged horse to fly, Yeah. And if Cassie is completely out of it right now, the only of the three of them that can fly is Mary. So she's got to Shazam up.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, this is just fantastic. I'm really, really enjoying this piece. Hippolyta. It's interesting to see Hippolyta in this piece. Especially when you've got our queen, Nubia, who is kind of reacting with, am I handling this right? Am I not? I really enjoyed seeing how Hippolyta's playing into this.
Yeah. Again, great mysteries as to what is going on the island, what is going on with the Amazons. This is all part of the whole thing with, Themyscira has fallen, and, it's all because of you. Who is that mystery cloaked figure? Who is that? What is going on here? And again, I love the fact that as we're issue 4 into this, and there's still mysteries to be unfolded. There's still stuff that's playing out, you know?
Yeah, yeah. The piece where we come across the Spear of Ishtar,
Yeah.
and you get to see that particular sequence, you know, which leads to kind of the ending sequence of all of this. You know, the Garden of Hesperides?
Yeah.
And excuse the butchery of that.
Hesperides.
Yeah. But I love when she comes across this one, especially with the rabbit on her shoulder, which I think is just really, really great because she's our hard ass, you know, of the team, and she's having that reaction. I did not see Peacemaker making an appearance in this, or I end your queen in the name of peace.
Yeah.
But I really like how this story is kind of developing this DCU feel in it. And it was a good reaction at this point to like leaving us with a decent cliffhanger where she's got guns pointed at her. She has obviously the laser sight pointed at her as well. And we've got Nubia with the gun pointed to her head. It's going to be very, very interesting to see where this goes as the story goes forward. But this is, wow. I'm really enjoying this. It's been a great ride. I like that the main title is not beholden to be real time with this. You know, I like that now the main title, Wonder Woman, has started to move beyond these events. She's got her own, or I mean, at least, you know, it's telling its own Wonder Woman story. These events are going to continue on and wrap up soon with their own little storyline. I like the distinction. It's working really well for me.
Oh, big time. This again, you know, 100% loving this series. This has been, you know, this was a really good read to just, again, jumped in, did a bunch of them back to back. Absolutely was very happy with that. I'm so thankful for this.
I'm surprised they went with the Amazonics Attack title. And the only reason why is I remember Amazon's Attack back in the day being something that had very mixed reviews. You know, back then, some people really liked it, some people didn't like it, some people fell in the middle. It was one of those stories. It was interesting to go back to that branding, but oh my gosh, I don't know what else you'd call this story than that. It's a interesting story.
Yeah, and again, the only thing I could think is if they did Attack on the Amazons. That's the only possible other story title I would call it.
Which doesn't have a
right. Doesn't have the same zing to it.
Yes.
Amazon's Attack has a great zing. I love it. And again, it also fits with the whole propaganda piece because the propaganda is that these Amazons are attacking us. They're this evil, this great evil that's going to kill your children. They're going to break into your home, kill your children. You know, that's how evil these Amazons are. And I love that that's kind of like the way they're going with this propaganda. And in reality, the Amazons are the ones being attacked. The Amazons are the ones being persecuted for no reason, really. Again, one person did something, maybe, you know, and all these other people are getting penalized for that. To the point where we have this propaganda pieces going on about, hey, make sure to turn in these people. If you suspect they're an Amazon sympathizer, turn them in. You know, not all Amazons are, you know, what you may think. They're sympathizers. We need to take out the sympathizers. So they're going after the everyday people who support and think the Amazons are okay. You know, so again, when you start having that kind of, you know, that level of, you know, tyranny, you know, that level of, you know, just that, you know, that I'm trying to figure out the proper wording.
You're trying not to say strategery. I get it. I'm listening to you. You're stumbling over. You're trying not to say strategery. That's what you're trying. But that's what you're in your mind. You're going to say it.
Yes, I'm thinking. But again, there's this a level of evil that is playing out on this that I love. How I really am excited to see where this thing goes.
He is called Hawkman. His gauntlets possess awesome powers.
G'day Sean, g'day Jen, this is Brett. I'm glad to hear, Jim, that your new year is better than what last year has been for you. And I'm glad to hear that your dad's okay. And just really happy to hear your voice again. And you too, Sean, it's always a pleasure when I listen to Raging Bullets. It's a bit of a palliative for my day. Hey, when you were talking about super hearing and how awful it would be to have it, it reminded me of the Irredeemable series that Mark Waid and Peter Krause did a handful of years back. That's the Plutonian who's your Superman analog. And he goes crazy and just starts destroying the world in revenge for what he actually hears people saying about him. So, whenever he goes and rescues somebody, he gets the initial acclamations and everyone's excited and cheering and stuff like that. But he notices every time he flies away, there are people under their breaths saying things like, oh, he's just a freak. What is he doing here anyway? Oh, I bet he's just the vanguard for an alien invasion and things like that. So he eventually just goes nuts with a few other things going on, and is the anti-Superman. You're probably aware of this series, so I'm just preaching to the choir. If you haven't checked it out, though, it's well worth it. I know Boom's put out a massive omnibus of it that I was able to pick up for like 20 or 30 bucks, just at a random comic store here in Hobart. So it's definitely out and about, and well worth picking up. Once again, thanks for the show, boys. I'm excited to hear what you've got to tell us about in 2024. All right, all the best to you, boys.
You read Irredeemable, right?
Oh, God, yes, and I loved it. And also recommend, Incorruptible, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it was the opposite. Because that was one of those flip stories where the villain became the hero, the villain of the universe became the hero, and the hero became the villain.
Yeah.
It's funny, when he was talking about super hearing, so I'm thinking back to me as a kid. I was like your I'm talking about elementary school. I was your stereotypical nerdy kid. I had a bowl cut. I had floods. I had, those short pants. I had bell bottoms, which 70s, that kind of thing. I read comic books. I was awkward, all that kind of stuff. What happened was during that time, you get picked on as a kid, but you hear comments that people make, especially people that were your friends outside of school, if it makes sense. I mean, they don't want to be hanging out with the nerdy kid at school. Yep. So you overhear stuff like that. My only reason for referencing it with this is that affects you, right? When you just overhear that singleton comment. Imagine that's your superpower and you overhear, we all vent and stuff like that. I'm guilty of this, where I'll vent about people closest to me. And sometimes that venting is just, it gets it out of your system, then you come back and you approach something more rationally. You don't actually mean what you're saying when you're venting, but sometimes, we've all done it, where you vent about a situation, you say something that you're like, okay, I don't really freaking mean that. Yeah. But you got super hearing and you've heard that, now all of a sudden that becomes something more. It sticks with you, right? We've all had misunderstandings where we've heard things that weren't necessarily the actual feelings of those people that have said those things, right? Because your friends are still here. Here, in my example, my friends were still my friends. It's just, in that particular situation, that particular consequence, they said something boneheaded, right? You can normally walk away from that. You can't in the case of when you got that super hearing and you hear everything. You hear every little thing that a person says, their innermost thoughts. We all have those outrageous thoughts that sometimes are driven by the emotion of the moment. The danger of a power like that, ooh, boy, it's funny. As he's talking about Irredeemable, I was thinking of something oh my gosh, you never can shut that off. And how do you separate that? You know what I mean? The responsibility, Superman, it adds more weight to him, right? Because his ability to hear everything, even with those closest to him, and either choose to tune it out, but how do you really do that? When you've heard it, right? Yeah. It's I would imagine people close to him, including his parents, have said things that they were afraid of something that he's done or some moment that he was involved in where it isn't a condemnation of him. It's them trying to sort it out even, right? Even in sorting something out, you haven't formed your actual stance, your actual thought process. And sometimes during that journey, you go from, I'm on side A to, wait, in reality, I'm actually in side B. Yeah. I love that he's bringing up that particular comic series. If you haven't read that, it's brilliant, Mark Waid. I mean, ooh, good stuff.
Yeah, both of them. Irredeemable, Incorruptible. 100%, 100% recommend those two series.
Yeah, I was glad that he brought that up. New game came out while in between our last couple recordings that we didn't get a chance to shout out. Suicide Squad versus the Justice League is out. I'll give a quick review of it, and I want to be very careful in I'm going to put quote-unquote review on this one because I haven't completed the game yet, so it's really, I want to judge it when I'm done with it. I'm kind of mixed on this one, and it's really more for people out there saying, should I buy this one? Because, like any game, games are costly. If there's the ability, I don't know if there's the ability to play a demo on this. If there is, I would really suggest a demo. The story's brilliant. It's if you love Suicide Squad, and I've heard I'm not going to say that I coined this. I've heard other podcasts coin this. It definitely borrows heavily from the humor of Guardians of the Galaxy, which isn't so shocking because the films did too, right? So great. That's kind of a thing. But some of the styling matches Guardians of the Galaxy too. To kind of keep that caveat in place. The artwork and graphics in it are outstanding. It's a beautiful game. The story itself, I really like. So the main characters in it so far, I know there's going to be more coming later, but the four main characters are Deadshot, Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang, and King Shark. You can play as all four of them. They each play differently, and each one has a different mode of transversal, how to get around from place to place. There's so far, and I'm going to try not to get too spoilery, but just to give you kind of a flavor of things that I think you would really like. There's this sequence in the game where you're in the Hall of Justice. And the premise of this is through a series of circumstances, the heroes have gone bad. And it's a gradual process. And you are in the middle of some of it. So there's some of the heroes that are still good when you start off the game. So you get kind of a flavor of that. But you get to go to this, to the remains of the Hall of Justice. And there's a museum. In the museum, it kind of, walks you through each of the main heroes. You've got Batman in there. You've got Kevin Conroy as Batman, by the way.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, you've got Superman in there. You've got Wonder Woman in there. You've got John Stewart Green Lantern. You've got The Flash. So it's a really nice, stellar lineup of Justice League members. You really get to, mosey around the Hall of Justice from the inside. There is, at a certain point in time in the game, this is very early on, you get to go to a Batman museum. For the previous Batman Arkham games, if you didn't play them, it walks you through the basic story, because this takes place after those. It also fills in the gaps of what happened. It also gives you, there's an ending of the last Batman Arkham game that leaves you kind of wondering, how do they continue on? This fills in those blanks, too. So it's good for newbies. If you've never played any of the Arkham games before, you can go to this Batman Arkham Museum, and it literally has the push buttons, where, different things will happen. It's been partially destroyed. So the cool part is, some of the animatronics in it, don't fully work because of that, but the story beats completely work. So it's a great refresher of the first 3 Arkham games. So that way you kind of can be brought up to speed. It's good if you've played them before. It's also good if you haven't, to kind of fill you in. So everybody can be on an even playing field.
Nice. That's awesome.
So everything I just said right now is all the good stuff. The voice acting's great. The visuals are great. It actually looks like this could potentially be an animated feature released in the cinema. One of the 3D animated features. The graphics are that good. The bad. The enemies are very samey, at least right now. There is, I'm not going to spoil who the big bad is right now. I can reference it maybe in a later episode, depending on my progress in the game. This villain sends out his minions to kind of attack and hinder you. They're really attacking the city. So in order for you to get to your objectives, you have to keep blasting through these minions. There's 3 or 4 of them. They're these purple creatures. They're very samey. It's I would have rather had some Penguin's gang or this person's gang or, and mixtures of different types of villains with a little more flavor to them. That may happen later. And it may be something, because it's a live service game, so that stuff may be patched in later. It just, you can't help but feel like this is the same, your goal is always run and gun through these creatures in order to get to the next story beat. The story beats are pulling me through. I love the story. I'm just not as engaged in playing the game, if that makes sense. And it's supposed to be an online game. I've been playing exclusively solo. Other people may enjoy the online experience. I've heard mixed reviews of that. But the samey part is the only part that's losing me. Not the story. Story's fantastic. Will I complete this game? Yes. Because I like the story that much. But it's something going into the game, just be well aware of that it feels, at least initially, very, very samey. I haven't gotten to any of the big boss battles yet. And that's kind of telling in a DC game for me because of the fact that I'm being pulled to other games. Which, for me to tell you it's a new DC game, it looks great. I like the story. But sometimes I'm finding it tedious to go back to it. Kind of says something. So it's one of those where I'm glad I bought it because I want to play through this story. So I will say that piece. I just wish I liked the game as much as I like the story. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, actually it does.
So I'm hoping along the way they make improvements to it that make me change my mind on that. But that's initial impressions. So kind of keep that where it's at. I was kind of surprised by that because I figured I was going to be the one, because I'd listened to some reviews of it and just because I was excited for the game and heard similar thoughts. I know they didn't influence me because anybody listens to the show knows if I like it, and I'm going to tell you I liked it. I'm like, no, the reviews are pretty spot on this one. Again, it's kind of a little trouble on this one. So I'm hoping that changes. But I will say, if you're somebody who goes to a game for the story, so far, I'm very satisfied with the story. The story part works. I just wish that getting to the next story beat was more fun.
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who sent well wishes for Dad. Because I've gotten a bunch of them, and I'm slowly responding to them. If you sent something and you haven't heard back from me, it's because I am an idiot when it comes to technology, and I don't check emails and Facebooks and whatnot all the time. But I'm seeing them, and I just really want to say thank you. Dad appreciates the well wishes as well. He has a procedure coming up on the 15th, so anybody feel free to say a prayer or send positive vibes. But yeah, thank you very much. It's actually really cool.
Come on, Skreel. Let's pay these Plutonian beam makers a visit.
I would like to remind everyone about our show voicemail line. It's 1-440-388-4434. Or Dr. Norge on Skype. We love having you part of our show. RagingBullets@gmail.com is the email address. You prefer to contact us that way. RagingBullets.com is our show website. It links into our Facebook fan page and Twitter/X. You can also find our amazing Facebook group community, and it really is, it's their community. We are proud to be a part of it. I go there to check out DC news and pop culture news. Please consider joining that DC. Remember, we have two groups. There's actually the old group that they had at one point in time flagged and closed. So we started up a new group, and actually please sign up for the new group because that's the one that is much more active. The About Us section, our show website, where you can find links to where to get to us on all kinds of social media and gaming platforms. You can find me regularly on Is It Jaws, which is a movie review podcast. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Sagan, what's going on over at DCBService.com?
We have the 20th anniversary deluxe edition hardcover Identity Crisis, 40% off, only $29.99, and the Batman Family Year One box set, 40% off, only $35.99. Thank you, DCBS.
InStockTrades.com always has these amazing deals of the week, and this time around it's Creature Commandos presents Frankenstein. $24.99 regularly, 50% off, only $12.49. Peacemaker Tries Hard, the hardcover version, $24.99 regularly, 50% off, only $12.49. The Awesome Question Omnibus by Dennis O'Neil and Dennis Cohen, $125 regularly, 50% off, only $62.50. Superman vs. Meshy, the trade paperback, Volume 3, $9.99 regularly, 50% off, only $4.99. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Our next episode, we're going to be back, and we're going to talk about the Titans Beast World crossover that's going on right now. We'll get you caught up on that. So we will see you next week.
Bye!
All right, you guys. Are you ready to sing your song?
I'd say we are.
song?
Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, this should be fun. Now get ready for your cue. Okay, Sean?
Okay.
Okay, Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Raging Bullets time is here. We talk about what we hold dear. Comic books and TV shows. Superheroes and their clothes. Justice League and so much more. I just love Green Lantern Corps. We talk about the books we've read with spoilers straight ahead.
Okay, fellas, get ready. That was very good, Sean.
Naturally.
Jim, you're a little flat there, so be careful. Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Justice League and so much more. I still love Green Lantern Corps. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show.
Excellent job, guys.
Let's sing it again. Yeah, let's sing it again.
No, that's enough. Let's not push it.
Push it. What is that? Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't mean anything by that.
I think
Sean,
it's right
Jim,
there.
how long do you want the song to go?
Look, it's our